are back, complete here on Easter Monday. Thank you for joining us for this week's edition of Breakfast Central. Happy Easter from all of us here at Breakfast Central. We hope that you had a great Easter celebration. And to all the Christians around the world who are celebrating the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ, we hope that the symbolism of the season is not lost on you. This morning, for the next 3 hours, we're going to be looking at some of the biggest stories. Unfortunately, it's again another sad Easter, as there have been some insecurity again has been re-highlighted in our nation. We'll be looking at the various states in which these attacks occurred, security response, and what the next steps are. I am Olive MOD, and you're welcome. And it's great to have Joe Hansen back in the studio. Hello, Joe.
Ching ching. Ching ching.
We did miss you. Are you coming back from Beijing?
Each one.
No,
I forgot.
Let's not do that. Yeah. You don't know it.
Welcome. It feels good. Thank you so much for being part of the show, and thank you for having me. You know,
You're
like they say. Like Olive did introduce, it's a sad holiday for Nigerians. It's another thing that you want to think about when you wake up in the morning, but then you say these stories, they're back again. But you don't have a choice. There are people mourning this morning, and there are people who are indeed celebrating, while there are people who are thinking, which way Nigeria, where do they go to as we speak this morning? But then again, thanks to our viewers who are watching, and thanks for joining us as usual. Welcome to Breakfast Central, Benga.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you all join us wherever you're watching, from Hamburg to Pittsburgh to Johannesburg. You're welcome to Breakfast Central this morning. And things are happening around the world. Nigerians are still paying record prices for petrol. And you know the implication, the price of goods and services are going up, and the man responsible for all of this is still doubling down. It doesn't seem like the situation in the Middle East will be de-escalating soon, as it's doubling down on threatening to commit war crimes on war crimes come tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern time, he says. I'm talking about U.S. President Donald Trump. We'll get into details of this and more during the course of today's program. I am Benga Aborowa. Welcome to the show.
All right, gentlemen, it's great to have you. How was your Easter celebration?
It was brief. This is the man you should be asking. He
Actually,
had a long,
I saw your thorough Easter celebration.
I mean, he did the whole trip from Galilee.
It's the memorial.
We
usually have the memorial every year.
You know, Easter is Galilee to... Anyway, he covered the whole medieval period. He had a long Easter from Galilee to Antioch.
Because I just know Benga is about to yarn dust. You want to not let them know that you don't really go to church.
Benga has repented. He has. Benga is a focused man. Focused.
My Easter was very quiet as well. I went to church with my family, and then after that, I went to have lunch with my family. I think, again, it's just the symbolism of celebrating the season. It's the most, for Christians, it's the most important holiday. We've glorified other holidays like Christmas and New Year, but the truth is what makes a person a Christian is actually the Easter celebration, because that is the essence of you being a follower of Christ. But unfortunately, while we were celebrating here, in other parts of the country, there was huge mourning and there were killings happening in different parts of the country. Easter attacks. This is not the first time we've seen Easter attacks, but we'll get into that. The unfortunate part is that while we're talking about the sensitivity of our country in terms of insecurity, we're still playing politics, and some strong rhetorics have been inferred on television that are not in alignment or should not even have been made in television. There's been outrage across Nigeria following a controversial remark by the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, who said he would have shot TV anchor Seun Okinbaloye during a live broadcast, drawing sharp condemnation from media bodies and civil society groups. The comment made during a reaction to a discussion on politics today has been described as reckless and a threat to press freedom by Amnesty International Nigeria, and the National Nigerian Union of Journalists have been called upon to criticize this as well. Now, what we've seen is that there has been no confirmed public apology, but they have asked that the FCT Minister make a public apology. However, Seun Okinbaloye has since confirmed that the minister reached out to him to clarify the remark, while Wike's aide, Larry Olayinka, maintains that it was mainly hyperbolic and not intended as a real threat, even as concerns linger over its implications for media safety and democratic expression. So we're going to share with you the first clip of Seun Okinbaloye, saying, what he actually said that led the minister on Friday to make such strong statements, and then we'll come back to share our remarks.
Like this, particularly during an election season, clear and consistent assurances of safety are critical. We must not create an environment where such statements can be exploited by those with harmful intentions. Let me be clear, I'm not afraid, and I will never and not be intimidated.
Two things emotional after that. In fact, I was surprised yesterday. Thoroughly surprised. When I was watching politics today, Seun, if there was any way to break the screen, I would have shot him.
How come his mother?
In 5 feet, we'll get to him. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. No, see what I'm saying.
All right, we apologize for that mix-up. So the initial video was an interview that Seun Okinbaloye was having with legal practitioner Libros Oshoma, and he did make a statement where he was asking, about the conversation was centered around the suspension of the ADC leaders. That's the chairman and the secretary of the ADC, national chairman and national secretary. And he was inferring in his question, or he was interpreted to have inferred from his question, that Nigeria is tilting to a one-party state. And the minister of the FCT, in his media briefing, which aired on Friday, we did announce that on the show here on Friday, was then, angry and stated in that press chat where he said he was appalled by that, and if he could go through the television and shoot him, he would do that. And then the reaction was that video that Seun Okinbaloye had put. And if you watch the longer version, he had said that yes, the minister had reached out to him, but we must note that he is not afraid. Now, let's get our reactions. The reactions will be first, the gravity of the statement that was made, especially because we're in a country where press freedom is at an all-time threat. Between 2024 and 2025, Reporters Without Borders shared the index about press freedom in Nigeria, and Nigeria dropped 10 spots to 122 out of 180 countries. And the Reporters Without Borders also said that Nigeria is becoming one of the most dangerous countries for press freedom as at 2025. So with such statistics, such alarming statistics, hearing statements like that only go to further maybe confirm the fears that many people have about press freedom in Nigeria. You also check CJID, and their statistics they have shared regarding the number of people who have been assaulted, abused, and even killed as a result of a lack of press freedom in Nigeria. The numbers are alarming. So hearing someone who has such a position, such as the minister of the FCT, coming out to make such statement, regardless of how angry or how triggered he were, and even if there was a merit to his argument, the mere fact that he made that statement on live TV, again, reiterates the danger that journalists feel when we show up every day to do our jobs. It's not enough for him to call Seun Okinbaloye and clarify on the phone. It's not enough for his aide to make a statement clarifying. In the same way that this matter was made on TV, this statement was made on TV, I think that it's important that the FCT minister also makes another video or another media chat to apologize and clarify and say, I shouldn't have said that, I take that back, and I'm sorry. Simple and short.
I don't know where to start from this, but I do know where I'm going with this story. When this news broke out and I saw this over the weekend, I remember, News Central has a news group, and it was buzzing, and I couldn't help but also drop my 2 cents, which shows the reality that we live in. All of you talked about it more often. We live in a volatile situation now in our country. Just over the weekend, we've seen numbers of people that have been unalived in the north. We've even seen stories this morning that shows that there were attacks in different areas of the country, different states. We're talking about states like Kaduna, we're talking about Borno State, we're talking about the volatility when it comes to insecurity is heightened. And then you will think that someone who actually is at the top should be the one to find a way to champion peace in terms of conversations, in terms of body language.
But this was not in the politics. Exactly.
Try as much as possible to maintain the tension, but there was no way that was done. And I'm going to say this. A lot of persons think that because we're journalists and then we work with different media houses, therefore journalists are different. We're not. That's the truth. Journalists are not. We're one. And you need to know that. We may work in different media outfits or companies, but when it comes to
an attack against one is an attack
working as a team, as a unit, journalists understand the implications of them not doing their jobs. So they have to do their job. However, if you decide to single out a journalist and say you could have shot him, you're simply saying if you have chance, you can kill all journalists. That's what it means, whether you like it or not. Don't say it's a wrong interpretation. It is the right interpretation because the same profession is what other journalists are also involved in. Bottom line, you go back to the fact that you have leaders. I remember Laurent Gbagbo, Côte d'Ivoire, 2011, over 3,000 persons dead because of his statement and because of his, he's been indicted by the ICC. And we still have that case still on. You also have issues of the former late President Muhammadu Buhari, if you recall, in 2011, where he said, if he doesn't win the elections, Nigeria will be ungovernable. We know what happened in the north at that certain point. And people had attributed the issues that happened around that time because of that single statement. I did prepare a few videos, which I hope I have time to show. Before the 2023 elections, Benga and Olive, you remember what happened when the current National Union of Road Transport Workers embattled MC Olomo, came out and made a statement in front of his members and said, if they don't want to vote for us, what do you do to them? He said, tell them to leave. And then that's the Ya Chukwuji and so on. That's the video. Let's just play the video a bit. I mean, just to add to the context of what we're really saying so Nigerians can really understand that your statements can be very powerful.
Please, if you don't want to for us, please sit down
I'm sure we recall that video, the eve of the elections, when this statement was made, and Nigerians took to the streets, took to social media, complaining that the DSS, the security operatives, should have invited him for making such statements, because elections is actually, it should be free and fair, and it's not, it doesn't belong to a particular party. However, we did see what that highlighted. It highlighted one thing, that, listen, people can make very strong, grandiose statements, and they will not be held accountable. The result of that statement, there are footages that came out as well.
Different sets of
we
laws.
saw area boys who ran into the streets. Yeah. They had canes and all that, and they were going from house to house telling people, don't come out to vote if you don't have any plans to vote for the APC. Even at the polling unit, we did see members of the same party asking people, who are you voting for? If you vote for another party, we're going to deal with you. Is that how you walk away? Remember the lady who had a scar on her face and she was bleeding? That was as a result of the same statement that was made that led to these illegalities, especially in action. And then you now have a minister, Benga, not a local government assistant to the chairman, a minister of the Federal Capital Territory, federal, not state. We're talking about federal capital, on national TV saying, if I had a chance, I would have shot him. I don't know how we want to interpret this, but like Oliver said, he had called Seun and said he apologized. I think when you made that statement, you did not call him on the phone and made it on a one-on-one basis. You made it on national TV. And I know that the FCT minister likes to go for the press conferences. I think he should call again and make that apology on national TV. I don't even want to read what the SSA, his special assistant, said, because I think, I'm sorry to say, it's all gibberish. There's nothing he wants to say there.
You know, this is not the first time the FCT minister will be in the front page of the news for controversies. Remember and recall the incident with the naval officer calling him a fool and things like that. I believe what has led to this level of impunity or brazen disrespect of people and threats is because there are no consequences for his action. There's no one to call him to order. Mr. President thinks he's doing a fantastic job, so he has a free reign and authority to do as he likes. What was most shocking is you make this sort of statement, a threat to life, in front of fellow journalists. There were about 6 other journalists there, and no one could speak up for Mr. Seun Okinbaloye. I thought that was really disappointing because we have a confraternity of journalists. Like you said, we don't have to work in the same organization. The Constitution gives us a special privilege as the 4th estate of the realm because of the serious and important work journalists do. And some might think it's a harmless statement. No, it's not a harmless statement. It's just putting a target on Seun Okinbaloye and all journalists back that, look, if you say or do things that we don't like, we might come for you. And it's really, really sad that what we're seeing now is issuing of statements, and which is far from an apology. Like Joe said, it would be nice for him to speak to the camera, address Nigerian journalists. And, you know, there's no harm in apologizing for your action, and also call for greater protection of journalists. For federal minister, a senior government official, a former 2-time governor, you expect him to be more circumspect. And in his statements, you can't just say things like that in front of camera on national TV. And I'm happy that he's also taken an international dimension. Amnesty International has flagged this. They've issued a statement on this incident. And hopefully other politicians and Nigerians in general will learn from this, that you don't go around making statements about shooting people and threats to life.
All right, and just you know, as we wrap up on this particular story, I just want to mention 2 more points that I had wanted to mention. That one, statements like that, what it does is that it sends a message that this is a government that is opposed to dissent, and that when people do not agree or align with your school of thought, you know, it might go down the wrong way. Because again, if we go to the fabric of what Seun said, let's even analyze what was said or what was inferred, that Nigeria is leaning to a one-party state. That's not a statement that Seun is not the first person to say it. Many people have said it. Many people have that school of thought. Yes, the ADC leadership has been de-recognized, or their names have been removed from the INEC portal. The concern is that there cannot be just one major political party without a valid opposition. As it stands, PDP cannot present a valid opposition at the next election. The only other likely option would have been the ADC. But the ADC does have many internal battles within itself, and now with its name being removed from the INEC portal, then it will not be, it may, I wouldn't say, it may not be able to mount a formidable opposition against the ADC. And for any democracy to be said to be a truly thriving democracy, there has to be opposition. The role of opposition cannot just be shoved aside. So that is the merit to that school of thought. And everybody does not have to agree with one school of thought. Besides, journalism is evolving. Journalists are first Nigerians. You know, there are segments of our shows that allow us to share thoughts and opinions on certain matters. And even if you disapprove, there's a more respectful way that we can all go about it. Let's not try to, you know, inflame the polity with statements like this. But let's see what Nigerians are saying about this on X before we head to our next story. Our first tweet says, this is a so-called serving minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria saying in a live broadcast that he wished he could have shot and killed a Nigerian journalist. A country where public servants become tyrants because they know there is no consequence for impropriety, Debo Adedayo says. Nyesom Wike is exposing himself like goldfish in a bowl. The things he got away with in the small pond, River State, must not be replicated at national level. His boss, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, needs to call him to order, or the press should consider shutting down the media chats with Wike. Fuji Dancer says. And he calls himself a lawyer, so Seun Okinbaloye cannot, as a citizen of this country, cannot express himself politically. Mr. Wike, this is the height of irresponsibility, Nasiru Garba Lim says. Why is the issue of APC worrying him since he claims to be in the PDP, and this is of course in reference to the FCT minister. This goes to show the people following him in PDP that they are on their own, because APC is PDP and vice versa. Very anyhow comment from the so-called minister. Misena says, and there is no other point he's trying to make. The point is very clear. This is what this tweet said.
Olive, just to add very quickly that the point is, I mean, the Independent Broadcasters Association of Nigeria, IBAN, they put out a statement as well. They did put out a statement over the weekend too. And what they said simply is they're going to boycott any of his media engagements. Yes, or any of, if the minister does not apologize, they would boycott all of his media chats. That's what they've said. So IBAN has given him an ultimatum, given him time to actually come out and apologize. And if he fails to do so, then they, like they said, they're not going to be part of it. I think that's a good move. And I also think that if I had predicted it, funny enough, we talked about this on Saturday, better still. And I said, I know that in a few hours' time, a press release will be put out by Leroy Olayinka. And that happened.
But that's normal.
That's normal. And then what will happen next is, oh, no, that's not what he meant. And that's exactly what the press statement says, that that's not what he meant, you know. I mean, look at the second line. The statement on Saturday, the minister never meant that he would shoot. They even spoke on the phone today. I understood what the minister meant. I want to ask Mr. Leroy Olayinka. I have never asked him a question, but I want to ask him this morning. He's also a journalist. Please, what does the minister mean? I don't know. I want to ask.
He said in that statement that he was hyperbolic and he spoke figuratively and hyperbolic.
So in all fairness, in the live chat, as soon as he says that, somebody said, and commit murder, I believe that's Chamberlain or so, whose voice I heard say, and commit murder. He said, of course I don't mean that. Like, he did try to clarify himself on TV. However, the fact that he said that at all, you know, it was definitely not taken in good faith. And a better approach would be to come out personally. There's no one that's above mistakes, and therefore no one should be above an apology. So to come out and say, you know what, in this live chat, I made a blunder, I shouldn't have made this analogy at all, even though I didn't mean it, I shouldn't have said it. I'm sorry, and I'll be more careful next time.
Oliver, I want to ask, in law, what's it called when you make such statement?
Well, it's a threat.
Is it a threat, defamation, or what is it called?
No, it won't fall as defamation. So it's actually a threat. Yeah.
A threat to life, right?
It's a threat.
Good. The good thing is, when someone comes out to make a threat to life, in somewhere in the northern state, we saw someone who just raised his voice and screamed, there's no lights, there's no water. And he was arrested by the DSS and locked up because he spoke the truth that, listen, you're campaigning, but we don't have light, we don't have water. And he was locked up. The point is, and this is very obvious, and we need to say it here. We've interviewed a few members of the APC. While we give credence and respect to some of its members who are able to answer us, professionally, or they deviate the answers and say, listen, I don't have the answers. We've noticed that a bunch of its members are very, very aggressive when questions are asked. And the point is clear. Journalists have to do their jobs. So when they ask questions or when they point to a certain reality, I think it's not up to you to just get angry and then become forceful and fierce, trying to ensure that you attack them and do all you can. I think it doesn't stand. And I can't wait to see if the FCT minister will actually do another video. But then again, if IBAN says they're not going to go for any other press media chat with the FCT minister, let's wait and see if that will also hold water.
All right.
That's the truth. Anyway,
So, moving on to our next wake-up story. Sad one. Just days after renewed violence in Plateau State, Easter Sunday turned tragic across multiple communities. A suspected terrorist attacked worshippers in Arkiro Ariko, I beg your pardon, Kaduna State, Mbalom, Benue State, and Chibok in Borno State. In Ariko, gunmen struck St. Augustine Catholic Church and First Equa Church, killing at least 7 and abducting several others, while the Nigerian army confirmed the attack and said it rescued 31 worshippers in Mbalom. At least 17 bodies have been recovered after suspected attackers struck during Easter services, burning homes and food barns, with many residents still missing. In Chibok, reports indicate multiple casualties as terrorists targeted the communities, reigniting fears from previous attacks. Kaduna, Benue, and Borno underscore the vulnerability of rural communities, particularly during religious gatherings, and have renewed calls for urgent security intervention. I mean, this is sad. It's a tragedy. And
the footage you see there is also the explosion of a CNG bus. This also happened over the weekend. It was like I would call it the Easter tragedy, because it happened in different locations, different states. There was an explosion like what you see here, a CNG exploding. You also had the attacks. You just mentioned that in the St. Augustine Catholic Church. You also have the killings. The numbers are very alarming. And Minga, one will wonder, is Nigeria part of the US, Iran, and Israel war? Are we part of it?
Because to see this level of terrorism, I mean, the Global Terrorism Index put us as the 6th most terrorized nation in the world out of 200+ countries. That is alarming. That's why you're asking the right question. Are we in a war? Have we, as terrorists, have they declared war on Nigeria? Are we in a state of active war? Because you only get this sort of figures when you're in a war. It's really, really sad. And it seems the security operatives are overwhelmed because you have multiple flashpoints, so you can't concentrate all your energies in one part of the country. This attacks spring up in different parts, but like someone said in the National Assembly, maybe we should all just go home and tackle this issue head on, because we seem to be distracted with other issues. These are lives. We've almost forgotten the sanctity of Nigerian lives. They're not just numbers. Every other week we come here, every other day, it's one incident or the other. And you know, people are trying to whitewash it and sweep it under the carpet. No, these are brothers and sisters. These are Nigerian lives that are being lost at such an alarming rate. And I mean, those that we've put in charge of our Commonwealth to protect Nigerian lives say they're doing their very best, they're on top of the situation. Well, the reality doesn't show you're on top of the situation. We demand better and more protection for Nigerian lives, while acknowledging the great work the men of the Nigerian Armed Forces are putting in. Please, we need to redouble their efforts and give them all the necessary support they need.
It's really sad, you know, the state of insecurity and the fact that we knew that the conversation about killing of Christians has been in the news since late last year. We knew that the Easter celebration was coming. What measures were put in place to prevent? It feels that our response as a nation is often reactive as opposed to being proactive. These communities, a number of them haven't just been attacked for the first time. And we know that because of the Easter celebration, there will most likely be an attack for whatever reason, either because of the symbolism of the season or the fact that many people are going to be gathered in one place, and as a result, you know, there might be some form of vulnerability in that regard. Shouldn't we have ensured that there were plans to properly fortify these areas to ensure that the attacks were not being able to be carried out? It's a sad thing, it's a sad situation that right now, the way that, I mean, before we used to pray for our brothers and sisters in other countries who are going through persecution of some sort. It's at home now. It's not far anymore. And it's becoming normalized, and that's the part that is the most despicable about all this. The fact that insecurity, we do not know if it's handled with the same anger and the same aggression that it should be handled and tackled with. The life of every Nigerian matters, and we haven't acted like it really does. And our hearts really go out to friends, family members, loved ones, our fellow Nigerians who have lost loved ones. I want to say thank you to our armed forces, you know, who are putting their lives on the line. but there's more that needs to be done. While our politicians are busy politicking, we hope that they can see what's happening and how we're having our brothers and sisters being killed. These things sound very far away until you know somebody who has been affected up close, until you hear the stories. I've heard from persons who have been affected up close, and I'm not talking of social media hearing. I've heard from persons who have experienced this, people who, you know, you hear all of a sudden there's an attack, where you are scampering for safety, you don't know how to get to your home. I've been in meetings, in prayer meetings, where the prayer points there is, please pray for my family. You know, there were gunshots heard last night, and I don't know if they're well. I've not been able to hear from them, or they're afraid, they're hiding somewhere. That is the reality. Like we're in a war. For a country that is not in a war, we have the reality, and even the numbers of countries that are in a war. And it's very, very sad.
I just want to add to this. I mean, if you go to the presidential Villa State House sometime in November 26, 2025, the president declared a security emergency. And this declaration, he said, was actually to order army and the police to actually ensure that they safeguard lives and property. So what were the steps that were given? Let's look at these steps. Step one, he mentioned that state of security needs to be looked into. The army actually was said to recruit additional 20,000 officers, the police, I beg your pardon, 20,000 officers, and then look at bringing the total to 50,000. The truth is, the population of Nigeria, in comparison to the number of the policemen, is minute. It's too small in terms of the police officers to protect.
Be effective. Yeah.
It's not effective because the population is more than the police officers. Let's also look at the remuneration, the pay package as well. Is it motivational enough? Is it enough to make them go and do what they need to do? That aside is a conversation we need to have. But the bigger picture here, as this insecurity continues to ravage each society, community, state, is that if we look at the Nigerian map, it is starting to spread. And I think instead of politicking, professionals, security experts have called on the current administration to shelve all forms of either activities bordering on elections from 2 years ago when they said it, and nip the insecurity in the bud. That's one. Secondly, let me also mention, Benga, thank you for mentioning it, the National Assembly. What is the National Assembly doing? We need to see what they need to do, and they need to do something. It's not about passing laws. Do they really care? Can they
the people's
say,
representatives.
Let's stop everything. Let's handle the situation.
Okay.
Sorry.
I don't know if we can take what Nigerians are saying about this, but let's just quickly share with you our top stories today on Breakfast Central, and then we can talk about this much later during the show. This morning on Breakfast Central, President Tinubu approves 3.3 trillion naira electricity debt settlement plan. And moving away from electricity, still talking about the president, President Tinubu receives information minister and the chairman of Boa Group. And then we'd also be looking at Amnesty, CSO's demand apology over threat to shoot comment on Seun Okinbaloye made by the Minister of the FCT. INEC directs Rex to suspend voter revalidation plans. And we'll be reviewing the front pages of the papers. Stay with us.
I'm sure you're part of those who have continued to complain of the poor power that you've received, especially in your area, home or location, talking of electricity. But let's tell you that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved a sweeping 3.3 trillion naira plan aimed at tackling Nigeria's long-standing electricity crisis by clearing debts across the power sector. The intervention under the Presidential Power Sector Financial Reforms Program is designed to settle legacy debts accumulated over nearly a decade, which have weighed heavily on power generation and supply.
Government officials say the move will improve liquidity across the electricity value chain, ensure payments to gas suppliers and generation companies, and ultimately boost power supply to homes and businesses. The approval comes against the backdrop of persistent power shortages, frequent grid collapses, and rising costs for businesses forced to rely on alternative energy sources. while the government insists the plan will restore confidence and attract investment into the sector, critics are already raising questions about what transparency, sustainability will mean in this regard, and whether the intervention will deliver lasting results. And to help us unpack what this means for Nigeria's power sector and the wider economy, we're joined by the former chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, Dr. Sam Amadi. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Amadi.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. In the past few weeks, we've seen a blame game between the generation companies and the transmission companies as to where the fault lies in this issue we've had with electricity. But with this latest development, how important is this? And do you think that the issue of this legacy debt in Nigeria's power sector is the solution to our problems?
It can't be a solution. It can't, because basically what's legacy debt? Debts that are accrued in the past, and you are paying off some part of it, and there's no mechanism that those debts will not accrue again. And in fact, the association of the generators, the executive director was very clear that even as we are talking, the debts keep accruing. So what are these debts? Okay, basically, this is a difference between what the generators collect and what they ought to collect. And it keeps building up, and it has impact on gas supply because they're not able to honor their gas commitments, and then gas may be diverted to other uses. Maybe they themselves would not generate according to their capacity because they know that the market cannot take it or cannot pay for that, and then they will have no finance to improve, to maintain their capacity or even expand capacity. So this is how the mechanism affects power supply. But the key point here is the underlying costs. There could be some respite. I mean, if these debts unlock for this payment unlocks for the generators more investment, or at least able to pay off and restore a degree of commitment back to the power sector from gas suppliers, maybe we can see some steady, small increment in generation, and hoping that we don't have a problem, downstream with distribution and transmission. So primarily, look, we're going to be dealing with band aid, putting things up, maybe getting back to 30 megawatts, 70 megawatts, just things like that. There's basically no plan anywhere for structural transformation, no plan, and nothing in this new move. I mean, government touts money as if it is policy. It's always, government has budgeted X amount. They put like an achievement. That's not an achievement. At best, financial allocation is a tool that needs to be complemented with the right policy, the right project management strategies, and then we'll begin to have a potential that something can change. But all the time, they will flash allocation and then say, oh, wow, we have solved the problem. Government has allocated 3 trillion. That can actually even compound the problem if it's not well managed. So for me, the foundational point is that the sector is poorly governed and managed at this point.
Now,
and if
Doctor,
it is, then you're going to see a coherent improvement in the sector for some time.
I mean, Dr. Amadi, I must say you broke my heart this morning when you said 3.3 trillion naira is just band-aid, that they're throwing money at the problem and they're barely scratching the surface. It's not changing. It's not going to bring about the desired change many Nigerians and businesses are hoping for. So you did say that the problems are foundational. Now let's get to the foundational problems. What steps do we need to take? I mean, just basic, nothing too technical, just commonsensical steps that we need to take to fix this issue.
Okay, I'll just say 3 things first. We should, and when I say we, basically I'm talking about those in power, basically. We should first acknowledge that the quality of leadership, this is critical. I mean, you see some video trending up by the minister saying X or saying B, wanting to run for governor, not wanting to run, says that the minister have met him at close range. I don't think that's the kind of personality you need now. He might be extremely good in other things, but not what you need now for a sector that, to be fair, has structural problem and needs to be cracked. So that you need to think clearly around leadership, not just at the ministerial level, at the regulatory level too, and other levels. You have to get it right. Two, I think there should be a sense of a diagnosis and at the same time with some intervention. So map out clearly what do we need to do to get steady, let's say, 500 or 300 megawatts steady on the grid, not potential, not generation, and then it's lost in transmission or lost in distribution. This has to get to homes. Let's say 500,000, okay? Which will boost, if today we are doing, let's say 3.8 a regular supply, I put 500, it has improved markedly. So you start with that and say, what are those low-hanging fruits? What are those improvement in optimization? And look at it this way. You see, whenever there's a problem, structural problem, there are short-term, medium-term, and long-term. Long-term might require transformation. Investments like these trillions coming in, if they do come, investment in new technologies, new management strategy, new policy rollout, that will take a time. There's a time lag. But there's also a short-term. And usually in management turnaround, short-term requires optimizing. That simply means you make everybody in the sector do more than they're doing. So if there's a collapse somewhere in a distribution line, the distributor is quick to go and fix it. Because some of these outages we have, some of these problems of the supply of power relates to management failure at many levels because there's no clear, effective oversight. So if you ramp up effective oversight with the same level of investment, with the same level of technology, the same policies for the short to medium term, you will see significant improvement. And this is not rocket, not only in the power sector. This is what we've learned from development across the world, that oftentimes we are operating below our optimization capacity because there are too many inefficiencies. And then that's why you need a task force kind of leadership that is breathing down on everybody, that 24 hours is looking at these gaps and pushing somebody to fill these gaps. And again, you need to communicate to Nigerians, and if the problem is financing, and it requires tariff change, like people are arguing, oh, these shortfalls, this is not working because the tariff is, let's assume the tariff is a problem. Then you need to have a communication strategy that address it with confidence building, so that you can't be addressing tariffs increase, and then you have a government sector that's expensive, that is living in luxury, that is not. So there must be then a leadership that inspires confidence and push Nigerians to make that sacrifice and say, okay, you know what? We are going to allow some unlocking of the tariffs because these are the benefits. So you can't cut off again public trust on government with hard reform. So even if it is true that the tariffs, I don't think it's a tariff problem, assuming that, yes, our tariffs may not be the best, but the tariffs are not terribly bad to generate this level of performance. But even if that, you need a level of public trust, a level of exemplary leaders, a level of communication efficiency that will make Nigerians, ordinary Nigerians who sit in their homes, understand that, look, yes, tariff goes up, but then there is a proportionate improvement, either in quality of service, time of outages are less, frequency is low, duration is slow. So these are the things you need to do together. So that when you do it in the short to medium term, you see great improvement. Then we'll not think about what we do, some of the more long-term changes. But I think that's something that these failures tell us a story around the failure of the reform. There are fundamental pieces of this reform that should change in the long term to drive real-time, long-term transformation.
Okay, Dr. Amadi, you pretty much covered a lot of answers. I mean, we were looking at asking, you talked about the minister, and maybe the portfolio is not where or fitting. And then you also highlighted one of the key questions that we're looking at. Maybe this legacy debt will be able to solve the issue. You said no, because it's a case of policy, structural policies, and so on that needs to be looked into, aside from just throwing money at it. But there are other questions, and part of the questions are, one, how do we monitor this monies that's about to be injected into the system? Are Nigerians sure How's the sector able to monitor these funds, this legacy debt? And then next, I thought that when the minister had initiated the band A, B, C, we heard that there was a lot of monies were made. So are we saying that monies were not made in the past 2 years that are not enough to offset some of these debts? Because band A, they were paying a lot. Everyone on band A is paying a lot, B as well. So what happened to these monies?
Okay, good question. First, let's start with the last question. So it's possible, to be fair to them, they can argue that if the debt was, let's say, 10 trillion, or let's say every month they have a debt of, let's say, 200 million. Now with band A and band B, they get revenue. That debt could drop to, let's say, 50 or 80 million. So in the case, there's more revenue to the sector, the debt is building slower than it used to be. So that could be an answer that, look, yes, we made money, but with the debt we are dealing with today would have been more if we didn't increase the band A, band B. But the whole strategy, band A, band B was a strategy to make money. Basically, that was what it is. To reduce the fiscal bankruptcy of this sector. And maybe they achieved that objective somehow. But the bigger question is that is around how much really are we talking about here? And again, let's be very clear. These debts come in many ways. Some of these debts are also evidence of the inefficiency of the discourse. So, for example, if you send a distribution company, let's say Ikeja, or where you are now, I think you're Ikeja or Lagos, whatever, okay, Ikeja or Eko, you send them 100 million worth of power. The argument is that they should return 100 million to various service providers, the generators, the gas people, and so on and so forth. But they tell you that their level of efficiency is 30%. That means they are telling you that, look, you know what? We can only account for 30%. Why? The rest are losses. So that 30% is what they bring back to the sector. So 70 million is losses, which builds back to debt. So some of these debts are not like government borrowed money. Are not like some people argue, is it even right for government to pay these debts, that many of them arise from the failure of the market itself? That's one question. Second is, these debts also are like entitlement to different people. So it doesn't necessarily mean that this debt is now government investment to the sector in terms of a turbine, in terms of new network. It's government paying what they owe these owners of this discourse. And so the owners are happier, they are richer, they're going to share this money according to a formula around who owns what. So the debt is owed to individuals in the market and they collect their money. Now, will this money help them to improve the network, improve gas supply, and therefore generate more power? That is still a problem. So it gets back to the next question around, how do you monitor these funds? Yes, this is not money that is going to Minister of Power or going to INEC or going to TCN to say invest in ABC. So government has contracts, they have tagged it. So our job, follow the money, we make sure that those turbines put on time. We make sure that this is money. Somebody says, you are owing me, and your debt is killing me. And because government is a guarantor of this sector, government is a sovereign guarantor of a sort to the bulk trader. So government owes them, and the government is paying them. And I hope they are going to, the list is, government says, is sanitized, because look, the behavior of companies is to be profitable at all times, sometimes unfairly, sometimes fraudulently. And so my guess is that government has done their due diligence and established that these figures are real and are accrued, and then that there's a legal obligation to pay them. And if that's what they have done, then that money is paid to the guys. We just hope that somehow the regulator will now hold them to a higher level of performance. It's okay, you are struggling because you had this big debt. Now you've got some level of financial infusion. Now begin to put your power plants, if you are doing 60 instead of doing your capacity of 100,000, you need now to ramp up to 100 megawatts. You need to ramp up to 80 megawatts because you can pay your gas suppliers and they can put in more gas for you. If you have turbines you couldn't repair that are down and out because you didn't have money to repair them, now that you have got money, then you have to put them back. And so through regulatory interventions, the regulator can nudge them to a higher level or even force them to a higher level of performance, in which case we benefit. So the monitoring is rather indirectly through regulation, because this is earned money. It's not like, and if government put this money, so okay, you are going to buy X, so show us the receipt. This is money. Government, someone says, you're owing me, and your debt is making me not to perform my obligations. Government says, okay, we pay you. So it's their money. They have earned it. It's in their pocket. Then the question then is, how does it change their level of performance? And that's what the regulator has to track. And of course, citizens will now note, well, since Tinubu paid blah, 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 has power improved? So through political advocacy and citizens' engagement, they throw back pressure on the role occupants, the ministry, the NERC. They now push back on, and that's the indirect way in which accountability works. But here is the accountability around service quality, not necessarily the spend, because the money is earned, it's a debt.
All right, I want us to go back to the conversation about leadership again. Of course, you have highlighted that from your perspective, you do not believe that the leadership is, of course, the person who should be there. And many Nigerians have expressed same sentiment as well, based off the fact that it was being politicized and results have not yet been delivered. From your standing or from your perspective, who would be a better fit, or what criteria should the person who would be a better fit to be Minister of Power? And secondly, do you reckon that we wait till this administration is over, or would you suggest to the president that there be a reshuffling that happens in that ministry before the expiration of this tenure?
Well, I don't know what the status of the minister. Some stories he has resigned to join politics. Some I'm not sure.
For now, he hasn't officially. He hasn't. Not that I know that.
But
okay,
shown
so
interest,
if he has not, he's not going. Okay, because the time has expired, so he's going to be there. I think the president should sack him, fire him, or redeploy him. He might be a good guy in other places, you know. But we're assuming that the president's criteria for keeping ministers is performance. Look, one of the things about politics, why it underserves development, is that the character of politics may mean that what keeps in office is not what you call performance. So, but let's assume that Mr. President is very focused on putting his team based on performance, in which case he should be sacked or redeployed elsewhere. What are the criteria? Look, power is, the crux of the power sector is adaptive. It's not just technical. So it's not engineering. Okay, if you were running a power plant and the power plant keeps breaking down, and we're looking for who will fix it, we'll say, who is a good mechanic? They say it's Mr. B. So you hire him. That's a technical problem that requires technical solution. Fix that. But if you have a power plant or a machine, and every time people forget to put water should be put, they don't put water. They don't put enough water. Sometimes they overfill it, and then the thing, stops. Sometimes they underfill it, it stops. Sometimes they open it, and the rain beats it. Sometimes they get money, it's not even there, and children will throw stones and pour sand in it. Their problem is adaptive. It's not technical. It's not an engineering problem. It's adaptive. It's a problem of management, of human understanding the ecosystem of failure. So you need somebody who has that breadth of knowledge to look at the interdependencies that affect this one. Two, you need somebody who also has a singularity of mind, who is not really there to make money. Look, the anecdotes out there is so some of these guys come and say, you know what, I want to run for governor, I want to make money. So that is, you are not focused on distraction. You need somebody who will be there 24 hours and listen to, take briefings, and smart enough. Because in this sector, you don't need to know everything. You just need to know when the right solutions, the right problem has been brought to you. So a mixture of intellect, high intellect, a mixture of high morality, and a mixture of experience interrogating the various sectors that intersect in this work. So I think that's needed. And then the regulatory side too, maybe not optimal, but maybe not you can do in the short term. The minister will not be able to radiate some level of seriousness and nudge them to move higher up. So look, people can always do better than they're doing, but they need a leader who can make them do better. Oftentimes, that's what's missing. That commitment to doing better. Doing more than you're doing is what's missing. So oftentimes, it's not like, everybody has to be expert. You got to get the best and brightest from around the world to be in every part of that sector. No, you just have to have somebody who can communicate and help people to do better. Because sometimes people have the latent capacity to do, but they need to unlock it. They need somebody who can program them, who can monitor them, and who can evaluate them.
Now, Dr. Amadi, as we begin to wind down on this conversation and still looking at solutions to the perennial power issues in Nigeria, there's a state that is challenging the narrative and is doing something different since power has been taken off the exclusive list. Abia State's electricity model is a pioneering decentralized power approach in Nigeria. And the cornerstone of this model, of course, we know is the Aba Integrated Power Project, IPP, operated by Geometric Power Limited. Since independence, we've always operated a centralized power distribution and power system in Nigeria. Is there a way to scale up or for other states to try the Abia model so that at least pockets of places in Nigeria will have reliable electricity instead of looking all the way to the minister in Abuja for soccer?
Okay, good question. First, the electricity law has, decentralized. Many states are on, and have jumped in. Enugu actually is ahead of everybody. Enugu has the first state to get exemption for national grid. Enugu has a full-fledged regulator, that's running its own market with a subsidiary of Enugu Disco now called Manpower. So Enugu is up there. Abia, I think, is second in that stretch. Niger State has come in. Imo is technically, there, but Edo is coming up. Lagos is there, closer to Enugu and Abia. And then, of course, you have Niger State, you have Gombe. Many states have created their own, but this is the issue. First, the Aba Power Project was not a Niger State government project. It was a federal government island operation where they had with partners. And it took over 20 years that to get where we are now. There were a lot of hiccups, failures at the ground level, and then, uptake coming up now. So Abia State government is trying to optimize, and that's what people are talking about, rising costs, because that power plant costs a lot. And the financing is that you have to increase tariffs, and people in Aba are already complaining. But what Abia State government is doing that others can learn is that in the non-Aba area, Umuahia and other districts, the government is buying out Enugu Disco, the existing distributor, and buying them the deal is almost done. They want to buy it off and give it to a new operator. So this is an example of government retaking back privatized entity and then finding maybe an operator and ultimately down the line, sell it. And what they are doing is to say, look, we want to be sure, we want to be in control fully, and we want to put in power, 24-hour power, so people can then. So it's an experiment that's going to work. But the key thing, 3 drivers I want to put here clearly. Many states should not commence on this model by just copying. They should look at what works best for them. For example, Niger State, and I've talked to the Regulatory Commission, I've been there to train them. They need to look at the fact that Niger has different factor endowment, different resource endowment. They have hydros. They have a large landmass, like Abia and those Southeast Enugu that are very smaller in comparison. And so those pose different challenge or opportunities. So what we should be doing is learning what others are doing, learning what will work best for us, adapting our model to suit our factor endowments, our landscape. For example, some large states like Niger State, for example, would need a lot of cost. You're going to spend a lot on network because you're going to run network to tiny density, small density areas. Places like Anambra, small, you may not need that. So yes, Abia is a less, but that lesson needs to be learned properly. But the key thing is that states can play more role. They don't need to have their own. They don't need to cut off from the grid. They can embed power. They can be partners with existing discos, shape their investment and shape their performance. So multiple ways states can play more role, but they shouldn't be copycats.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for speaking with us, Dr. Sam Amadi. Always a pleasure, and thanks for sharing your insights. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Let's quickly tell you what's coming up next here on Breakfast Central. Coming up next, Amnesty CSOs demand apology over threats to shoot. Comment by the FCT Minister. INEC back again, tracks back and suspends voter revalidation. We'll also look at Nigeria's e-waste crisis. Stay with us on Breakfast Central.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now, at this point, we're looking into a subject that sits at the very heart of any democracy. That is the freedom of the press. But specifically, we're looking at the thin line between government's clarification and what many are calling outright intimidation. Over the weekend, the media space in civil society erupted following comments made by the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike. During a live media chat, the minister expressed such frustration with a journalist's line of questioning that he remarked, if there was any way to break the screen, I would have shot him. Let's take a look at the video.
In fact, I was surprised yesterday. Thoroughly surprised. When I was watching politics today, Seun, if there was any way to break the screen, I would have shot him.
I'm coming, mother.
In 5 feet, we'll get to him. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. No, that's what I'm saying.
Well, while the minister later clarified that he didn't mean physical harm through his special advisor, over 15 civil society organizations, including the International Press Institute and Amnesty International, aren't buying it. They say this rhetoric normalizes violence against the Fourth Estate. To help us unpack the legal, socio-political weight of these statements, we do have a legal practitioner and public affairs analyst, Liberos Oshoma, who joins us from outside of Lagos. And also, here in the studio, we have publisher of the Niche newspaper, Mr. Ikechukwu Amechi, who joins us on a Monday morning, not on a Wednesday, as you usually see him at 9 a.m. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. Thank you, Mr. Liberos, for also being here to speak with us. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. I think it's only right that we start with you. So we'd ask our studio guests to please grant us this moment to begin with you. You were at the heart of the entire conversation with Seun, but let's not pay attention to what may have transpired or what was said. But I like the fact that we want to look at what was said by the FCT minister. What does this amount to, especially when a senior citizen, a minister of the Federal Capital Territory, a former governor, and a senator as well, if you put it that way, comes on national TV to say if he has his way, he is going to shoot a journalist. He's also a lawyer, by the way, and you're also a lawyer. What does this mean?
Thank you. Let's quickly clarify from the position of the Constitution. Section 4 of the Constitution empowers the legislatures to make law. Section 5 empowers the executive to execute the law so made. Section 6 gives the judiciary the powers to adjudicate on the matters made, laws made and executed. And Section 7 talks about the local government in the country. Then if you go down further, before you get to the fundamental rights, you look at the fundamental objective, chapter 2, fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. Just beneath that fundamental objective, Section 22 specifically empowers the media to hold government to account. There is no other profession so recognized in the Constitution apart from the media. And so it behoves on everybody, irrespective of government officials, to respect that constitutional provision granted to the media and to protect them. So I've also listened to, because I was at the heart of that interview, and like you said, we don't want to dwell on, the issues, what Seun said, and what was my response and what it amounted to. The issue is this. Even if the minister has explained that what he said was not physical shoot, he even pointed at the TV and said, I would have shot him. The two questions for me is that how the minister shoots people who dissent from his opinion. Secondly, considering his loquacious nature and his braggadocio. Secondly, the minister also understands that he has followers, he has supporters. Some of them are illiterate who does not understand the meaning of hyperbolic statement and would take it upon themselves to do damage. So, and I also think that the explanation is an afterthought because he was furious, he was angry that he did not expect a journalist to be making such statements. And the question you would ask is the statement a lie or not? Was the statement also in furtherance of Section 22 of the Constitution to hold government to account? It was. So this idea, there should be a thin line between this idea of journalists not holding opinion and journalists expressing frustration on a society. If the actions of or inactions of those in government were not frustrating enough, the journalists would not be expressing that frustration. That's my opening remark.
All right, thank you very much for that. Let's bring the conversation back into the studio and ask Mr. Amaechi his response to this, especially because we know that he is a veteran journalist that has covered, stories, and you have insight into what the implication of this might mean, especially in terms of those who have linked this to press freedom. But let's get your initial reactions to this. Does it matter that he, on the spot, clarified that he didn't, he didn't literally mean that he was going to shoot him?
It doesn't matter. Just like Labros said, whatever he said thereafter, or even the press guy said, is simply an afterthought. If you watch that video clip well, when he said that, someone there asked him, do you mean you will shoot the television or you shoot the journalist? He said it will get to him. It will get to him. That was when they shouted, that will be murder. And then all the other rhetoric followed. Now, we are in the season of Easter, so let me go biblical. The Bible tells us that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. What Wike said was not, he said how he felt. And knowing Wike for who he is, he meant what he said. All these other issues are unnecessary for me. Why would a normal human being, just an ordinary citizen, not to talk of somebody who has been a minister of the Federal Republic and who is still a minister of the Federal Republic, who has been a governor, to come on national television to say that he would have shot a journalist for holding an opinion. Now, even, many times, Liberals has also quoted Section 22 of the Nigerian Constitution, the 1999 Constitution, which specifically mandates the media to hold the government to account on behalf of the people. And that is why the media, we are called the fourth estate of the realm, because we are also part of the governance structure. And specifically, it is to ensure that governance follows the rules. We are not in a jungle, for crying out loud. And if you go further, Section 39 of the Constitution also guarantees freedom of expression. Yes, it is not absolute, but Nigerians are free to hold opinions. Now, when you're talking about a journalist, as he said, not having an opinion, first and foremost, Seun Okinbaloye is a Nigerian. Before being a journalist, he's a Nigerian. And whatever is happening in this country also affects him. What did he say? He had an opinion about ongoing political events in the country.
It wasn't even an opinion.
Yeah, it was more of a question, if I recall.
It was a question to me.
Was it something that, okay, even if it was an opinion, was it enough to shoot a man because he had an opinion, or because, as a journalist, if you are a journalist and you are asking questions, of course, you have to
Build up,
do some kind of this thing before you throw in the question, which was what he was trying to do. The issue with Wike is that I think Nigerians have cut him so much slack that he's beginning to see himself as a god who cannot be held accountable for anything he does. And that's why he comes on national television to say things that any normal human being who hears him will scratch his head and say, am I hearing this man? Is this not for real? So, you know, after that, during that interview, it got to a stage, I had to send one of the guys interviewing him, I sent him a text message. Not even on the Seun Okinbaloye thing. Mm-hmm. On the issue of the former governor of Borno State becoming the chairman of KDP. And Wike was there blaming everybody. I told the journalist, I said that I am surprised that none of you reminded Wike that he, Nyesom Wike, and former governor of Ekiti State, Ayo Fayemi, foisted this man, Modu Sharif, on PDP. Many PDP chieftains did not want Modu Sharif to come in. It was this same Wike, now who has turned back, he's blaming every other person for the Modu Sharif disaster, other than himself. And the guy replied me, and his response was instructive. He said, you know, you can't win Wike in an argument. And that goes back to this issue of Wike holding court magisterially every month or every other month, talking as if he is now even the president of Nigeria. It's not an interview. Let us not mistake what happens as an interview. It is not. It is just Wike buying his way to gaslight Nigerians, to insult as many people as he wants to. And because none of those journalists will be given any opportunity to even take him up on the issues he has raised. So this is unprecedented. Saying it is irresponsible will be an understatement. But that is where we are now. We are beginning to normalize things ordinarily. Nobody in any decent society should accept as normal. They are becoming the new normal in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Mr. Amechi, I'd like to bring in Liboros back into the conversation. Liboros, what does the Nigerian Constitution say about checks on federal ministers? It seems like Mr. President is the only one that can call the FCT Minister to order. I mean, Mr. Amechi here talked about things that we've never witnessed before. The media chats, serving minister leaving his portfolio to go to Port Harcourt on a local government tour, abandoning duty in Abuja, and so many more. People, FCT residents, reminiscing in the past where street lights just in front of Transcorp were working and Abuja was free of refuse heaped. But now it looks like it's a different FCT. So even focusing on his job, many people will not give the FCT minister a pass mark, just strictly looking at his performance as FCT minister. But what can be done to, or what does the Nigerian constitution say about checking the powers and excesses of ministers? Is it just Mr. President that can do something about it?
Yeah, first and foremost, I took my time to spell out the powers of the National Assembly and the powers of the executive, the powers of the judiciary, the powers of the media. And you would expect ordinarily, there's a committee for the FCT. You would expect that in such, there are committees also for, almost every agency, every arm of government. You would expect that if we had a National Assembly that is properly so called, that is not an appendage of the executive, that the minister would be answering questions from the National Assembly. The minister will be investigated by discrete investigation by the security agencies, not because he has clarified, but to find out how many people that have disagreed with him and died, under questionable circumstances and all other issues. Because if somebody says, got so angry that a journalist had an opinion and he could shoot him through television, then there's need for you to backtrack a little bit and find out how many people have so disagreed with him and what happened to those people. Did they, get missing under questionable circumstances, so that you can properly position the statement of the minister. And also, he's answerable to the president that appointed him. He reports, we call it government, we call it individual responsibility. He's so responsible for his action, but he's answerable to the president and to the National Assembly. And I did a video where I said his behavior was an outrageous display of irresponsibility and that the president should call him to order. And a lot of people were of the opinion that not this same president, because he's obviously doing, the bidding of the APC, and so he's helping them, destroy oppositions, and so they would like what he's doing. But one thing, there was a time we had the Wadanas in this country. One thing people like this tend to forget is that no matter how powerful you are today, it's like that of a tenured monarch. Definitely, someday, you are also going to exit. And what would you be remembered for? Loquaciousness, acerbic state nature, insultive. Wike cannot respond to a statement without insulting somebody. And for somebody at that high position of office in government, one would expect that the man would even have secrets. But no, a fellow governor would discuss with you, and then the very next day, you spend almost 100 million naira just to respond to that governor and insult. So you now begin to ask, what is actually the job of his media aide? Is it to organize press conference for him when he is supposed to be answerable to the governor, to the president, but yet he holds media courts as though he is the president? You expect that he will be discussing governance, but rather it's a personal issue. All of this also because the FCT also has a committee that it's answerable to at the National Assembly and both the House of Rep. One would expect that funds that are spent on such frivolities accounts should be rendered to the committee of the National Assembly also. But like I said, a National Assembly that is also sending prayer alerts to members, and it becomes a rub my back, I rub your back thing. It is only the people who are in opposition, that's the rest of Nigerians, I'm not talking about the opposition party now, it is those people, the ordinary people in Nigeria that would understand, that should be able to call them to account.
All right.
And then let's even come to quickly, I must say this, even though you said we shouldn't dwell on the issue.
No, we'll come back, Mr. Ashoma, we'll come back to talk about the issue because I believe that it's important to talk about that. I also would like for you to speak about if there are legal implications of the strength or the weight of his statement, even when he says he did not mean it literally. But we need to go on a very quick break, and when we come back, we'll delve into that. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still looking at the statement made by the FCT Minister regarding Seun Okinbaloye's interview with Libero Soshoma. We have Libero Soshoma on the line with us. He's joining us virtually. Before we went on the break, I said to you that I want you to speak to the provision, the legal provision for statements that are made with such strong implications, and even when he's come out to say that it was hyperbolic and that's not exactly what he meant. Is there any legal provision for how that can be handled?
Yes. Because a statement like this, I'm not looking at his explanation. I'm not looking at him even physically. I mean, Seun. I'm looking at the way his supporters, somewhere, any statement that you make, even the the Cybercrime Act also prohibits Section 24 and Section 25 also restrict and prohibit and hold you responsible for such statement. If you make a statement that somebody somewhere might interpret or might cause somebody somewhere to do something that he ought not to do. So in this case, also the criminal code, in this case, if a Wike supporter sees Seun somewhere and said, this man that did something that the minister was not happy about and harms Seun. So that is why we shouldn't just take statements like that and say, oh, the minister has explained. And that's why, like I have said, the security agencies need to conduct further investigation on what had happened to people who had previously disagreed with him or expressed opinion that he didn't like, even though he didn't come out to say, I will shoot them. What had happened? If anybody disagrees with him, because like Amechi said, he expressed his intention, deep-rooted intention. So it is not a novelty, it's not a new thing. It is something that he is used to. He's used to always having his way. So others that have expressed dissenting views from his views, we just need to go back. And then, so there are copious provisions of the law. I've cited the Cybercrime Act, I've cited the Criminal Code, in the southern part of Nigeria. So to protect and to hold him culpable. Then the issue, because people, there are divergent views from some journalists. I've read some comments saying, oh, a journalist should not hold an opinion. And like Amechi also noted, the question was a foundational question because Seun's issue was all of these signs were telltale signs to the ADC, about 13 cases. He put that question to me, that there were 13 cases in court. And I told him, I said, no, there were about 15 cases. And that the ADC ought to have seen this coming, considering the barrage of cases. And that with this action of the ADC, it's almost as if they are gifting the APC a one-party race. And that a one-party race in Nigeria, it's not good for our democracy. That is a fact. So it is not... It's a statement of facts expressed by Seun, not an opinion. So there's need to distinguish that. It's like because everybody we all become lawyers once issues like this happen. And even, I'm also surprised that some journalists, because of political sentiment, we throw a colleague under the bus to say it was an opinion. Statements of fact are not opinion formed and expressed. When you make a statement of fact as a journalist, I've been in the media also since 1999. A journalist can bring out a statement of fact and not premise their question on that statement of fact. The statement of fact was that the way things were, if care is not taken, APC might go into the race as a one-party race. That's a statement of fact, and nobody should allow that in Nigeria. So, expressing such statement, when also Wike said quickly, so that because I know my colleague Amechi also need to quickly take a bite on this. When Wike was angry that Wike will be making such a statement, that means this is my conclusion. What it means is that Minister Wike, because Sahara Reporter had reported that there's some ministers and some governors are supporting Nafiu Rabiu. So that means the only conclusion and inference I can draw is that maybe Wike knows more than we know, and that is why he is angry that somebody is making such a statement of fact, and it should be further investigated.
I mean, journalism is even evolving. Let's bring it back here. Journalism is evolving. When they say journalists cannot share their opinions, there are certain types of broadcasts that allow you to share your 2 cents on certain matters, because the truth is, before anyone is a journalist, they're first Nigerians. Let's bring Mr. Amechi back into the conversation. As we come back into the studio, Mr. Amechi, let's also hear your thoughts on, maybe how this should have been handled.
I particularly want to know, because CSOs are speaking up, the media industry itself is becoming fragmented and intimidated to speak with one voice. What's the position, or what could journalists do better to avoid this sort of situation and to send a clear message to politically exposed persons that, we're not we're not balls that you can kick around. It happened with Femi Fani-Kayode when he was dressing down that journalist. It happened with Alex Oti, and now we're seeing this incident with the FCT Minister.
Why this is so sad? Yesterday, the Independent Broadcast Association of Nigeria, IBAN, issued a statement where they reminded Nigerians that Nigeria stands at 122nd position out of 180 nations in the world. And we dropped 10 positions in 1 year. In terms of press freedom. So, right now, journalists are facing one of the toughest times they have faced in history. In terms of intimidation, people being arrested, and all that. So, this is not a time to exacerbate the problem that is already out there. Now, I think Nigerian leaders, particularly those in the political class, they have become so used to being asked patronizing questions that they cannot stand any distance. That was why your friend, Daniel Boala, went to Al Jazeera and came out to tell us that they didn't tell him that we are going to ask him about statements he made in the past, that if they had told him, he would have prepared for it. So he was taken aback that a journalist could hold him accountable.
To his own words.
To his own words. And that's the same thing Wike and co are doing. And it is also sad to see that some journalists are also gaslighting Seun and are saying what he's doing is not journalism. For crying out loud, what is journalism? There is this classic definition of journalism which says that, look, news is that thing which the other man does not want in print. Every other thing is advertising, is PR. So news should not be what will make you, that should not be to massage your ego. It is to bring out the facts. If a fact is a fact, whether you like it or not, whether it makes you happy or not, the issue is that, considering what was being discussed, is Nigeria heading towards a one-party state? The fact is, as things stand today, it is. And you can see the hand of government in all this. And I will tell you why. And the judiciary, which is Oshoma's constituency, I am sorry to say, does not smell roses in all the problems we seem to be encountering in this
I agree with you.
Fourth Republic, particularly now, more so now. Look at Labour Party. After the 2023 elections, all hell was let loose. There was one Lamidi Apapa, who was there every day insulting P2B, every day saying all manner of things. Julius Abure, who was the chairman and whose tenure had expired, was also there. They went to court, and the court gave a judgment that Julius Abure was no longer the chairman of Labour Party. What did they do? Nothing. Nothing. There was still the confusion all over the place. INEC did not deem it fit to recognize the Nanadi Osman fashion, which had been validated by the courts, until P2B left. 1 week after P2B left, a junior court issued a statement. INEC quickly recognized Nanadi Osman. Since then, have you heard anything from Abure? Have you heard anything from Lamidi Apapa? They have crawled back to where they were coming from. The goal has been achieved. The idea was to make sure that Peter Obi does not have a platform, Labour Party. Now we go to PDP. The whole crisis until Wike fashion got a favorable court judgment. INEC has recognized it. Now, the major opposition political parties have been destroyed. So much so that Labour Party won't present any presidential candidate come 2023. PDP won't. At least Wike has said that. But even if they want to do something, they will bring out somebody who cannot win local government election.
A lightweight, yeah.
ABGA has already said, through the leader, who is the governor of Anambra State, that they are not going to present a presidential candidate. Then, after settling with this threat, they went to NNPP and created so much problems there. Kwakwanso left. They have left NNPP alone. So the only
viable party,
will I say the last party standing, is the ADC.
The SDP too had their own problems too.
The SDP, I think they know how they are dealing with the SDP. I don't want to believe that SDP, in real terms, poses any serious threat to APC. So the only thing left is ADC, and see what they have done at the time they have done it. And to tell you that this was, it was not mere happenstance. This was deliberate, calculated attempt. They knew what they were doing. Like Nalibros said earlier, 15 cases already there. People have said, why didn't they do what APC did in 2014, 2013, 2014, that is going out to register a new political party. But of course, you know that the INEC wouldn't have registered any political party. Yes, now they will tell you that they registered 2 the other day.
Yeah.
But they know what they are doing.
NDC.
They registered 2 political parties that don't stand any chance.
But the ADC, the ruling party, the
Yes.
APC, will
Yes.
tell you that these problems are not engineered by them and that people should take care of their home. You should do a better job in preventing
how do you take care? But it is. Nigerians know. We are journalists. Nigerians who want to tell themselves the truth know who are funding the people who are orchestrating all these troubles in the political parties. I've just told you Where is Lamidi Papa today? Where is Julius Abure? Why are they no longer challenging the Nonadi Osman-led faction after the exit of P2B from the party?
Okay, just to, in 30 seconds, to further buttress the question that Benga asked, I want to bring Mr. Oshoma into the conversation, because the ADC or the APC's argument is that they're not involved, they're not behind the woes of the ADC. INEC says that what they've done is to revert to status quo, and that reverting to status quo means they will no longer recognize the chairman and the secretary of the party, because the first case that was instituted, that they put those names on their portal after Nafiu had, brought his case on, I think September 2nd, if I recall correctly, and their name was put up September 9th. So they're reverting to status quo, and, that's what it is. Is that a correct interpretation of the Court of Appeal order?
While I disagree with that Court of Appeal, that interpretation by INEC, I disagree with it. But also, let me also quickly, please permit me, because we're on an international platform, there's need to also lead to education quickly. I know time is not our friend. On the 2nd of September 2015, the ADC, Nafiu Bala, approached the court asking for an order to de-recognize.
You mean 2025?
Yeah, 2025, sorry, 2nd of September. He went to court asking the court to de-recognize via an ex parte order. And on the 4th of September, that application was heard. And the Federal High Court in Abuja said, no, for application of this nature, there's no urgency here. Go and put the other party on notice. And let them show cause why the application for a interlocutory injunction should not be granted. Ordinarily, when such an application is served on you, Olive, you are a lawyer. When such an application is served on you, you don't go on appeal. You file your response. This man has resigned. These are documents. You file your affidavit, counter affidavit. So the ADC went on appeal to appeal an order asking you to come show cause in courts. And they played it to the hands of the APC. And at the Court of Appeal also, the Court of Appeal said that the appeal, having heard that the appeal is incompetent for lack of leave to appeal, being an interlocutory application and a discretionary order by the court, that the leave was necessary, haven't heard that the appeal was incompetent. The Court of Appeal didn't need to go further to say maintain status quo ante bellum, or not to confuse people. You would have just used clear terms. All of these, our legal jargons, has consistently created all of these problems. And then, let me take our mind back. INEC had consistently done this. When there is crisis like this, INEC will tell you they would de-recognize. That is why I said ADC played into the hands of the APC, knowing fully well that the agreement they had with Nafiu Rabiu, once it's broke down, you expect APC not to bother. But I can tell you here today that I think APC sought Nafiu Rabiu, a disgruntled member of the party, to say, okay, now the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Come, let us help you to scatter your party. And so, because they couldn't manage Nafiu Rabiu, so, and now INEC in 2016, when the PDP had their crisis, INEC failed to recognize either of the party. Let's give them that credit. In 2022 also, I remember INEC did not recognize Abure faction, neither did they recognize Lamidi Papa's faction. After the election, yes, after the election. Remember, in Zamfara, this was the same problem that APC had in Zamfara. And INEC, the, Aziz Yari and the Senator Marafa's faction, and INEC did not recognize either of the party or the court. The Court of Appeal requested INEC to put their name in the ballot. And eventually the Supreme Court said the convention was held outside the timetable. It happened also in Rivers State. So my advice to political parties, to politicians, is they know how they play their game. They know how they are at each other's throat. If you have agreement, ensure that you manage your people. What was the hurry to remove Raf Wosu? And mind you, You have the suits of what is called Dumebi Kachuku. All those ones are there.
Yeah.
They have still not settled those ones also. What was the hurry? Why didn't they allow Ralph Nwosu to stay out his tenure and then hold a convention and bring in new leadership, knowing fully well that the most difficult people to manage in any political parties are the leaders of that party? Oshomole, as a national leader of APC, was removed by a mere ward chairman, a vulcanizer, ward chairman. So these people know how they play their game. And you must manage everybody until you are in, a safe landing. And then you can do anything you want to do. And I agree with Amechi that the judiciary is not looking rosy. It's not just, I don't want to say, they create crisis. Lawyers, senior lawyers also are part of this problem. Why do you need to go to court asking for an ex parte order to derecognize a sitting chairman and the secretary of a party? Why file such an application? Also, the other lawyer on the other side, why appeal an interlocutory order asking you to come and show cause? So all of this, if all of these crises were not there, then the judge wouldn't have been talking about acting bello. Which one is, like the Bible says, which one is easier to say? Maintain position before you came here, or maintain position ante bellum, status quo ante bellum? It would have been easier to say, look, go back to the lower court and ask for accelerated hearing of this matter, considering the fact that you will have a convention coming, and you leave it at that. He said, knowing fully well that Nigerians are prone to interpreting court judgments, one way or the other. This is not the first time. We've seen it serially. This confusion.
The unfortunate part is, like you've mentioned, leadership is such a core issue within political parties. And then the defense to that, they would say, is that the court has said that it would not delve into matters that concerns leadership within political parties. We've run out of time, unfortunately. I'd have loved for us to touch on that again, but we'd like to have you back. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Oshoma, for joining us. And thank you, Mr. Amechi, for joining us. We're going to break, and when we come back, there's more to look at this morning on Breakfast Central, so please stay with us. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has suspended its planned nationwide voter revalidation exercise ahead of the 2027 general elections, following concerns over timing, transparency, and procedural gaps. In a directive issued by INEC Secretary Rose Oriaria Anthony, resident electoral commissioners were ordered to halt all preparations and publicity while awaiting further instructions. The exercise, initially scheduled to begin on the 13th of April, was designed to update and verify voter data. However, stakeholders, including Yaga Africa, warned that implementing it so close to the electoral cycle could disenfranchise voters due to limited awareness, logistical challenges, and tight timelines. Analysts also cautioned that introducing the exercise alongside ongoing voter registration and imminent party primaries could overstretch INEC's capacity and undermine electoral credibility. INEC has, however, directed continued internal preparations and moved its upcoming meeting with electoral commissioners to a virtual format. Joining us now is Regional Advocacy Officer, West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network, WADEMOS, Austin Aigbe. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Speak to us about, first of all, the need for this revalidation exercise. INEC says that the reason they were doing this is to ensure that maybe those who were dead and could not vote be removed from the voter register. But critics pushed back on this, saying that there was some suspicion of foul play as to the need for them to do it again, saying, we have already registered for the voters' card. Why do we need to revalidate our cards again?
Thank you. Okay, so let me come from a point of knowledge, then maybe we'll zero in later. You know that this permanent voters card, or the registration process that gave birth to what is called the permanent voters card today, began in 2011. And in the 2011 election, the permanent voters card could not be used for that election because of proximity to election. So both the permanent card that people had and the temporary voters card, at that time the TVC was used concurrently for the poll. So fast forward to 2023, you know that we have always used the total number of registered voters to identify the number of turnouts. So each time we talk about voter party in the Nigerian electoral system, for instance, we try to look at what happened in Ghana, that look at Ghana, 70% turnout. But Ghana always have voter registration ahead of every election. So what that means is that those people who are ready to vote in an election that actually goes to register. So you could have today, I mean, by that 2023, we had 93 million registered voters. And we always say that 30% of turnout, 28% of turnout was annoying, but we don't even know the real people who were ready to vote in that election. Meanwhile, there is good news for, it's an advantage for permanent voters card or permanent register. There's always its own downside. What we are saying is a downside of permanent register. However, the timing that INEC decided to do this, when INEC chairman first announced that revalidation in a meeting that I was privileged to attend, my consciousness arose that why now? Why? You have about 11 months, that was then about 11 months to an election, and you are going for this kind of exercise? It's not worth it. And meanwhile, INEC is going to be engaging in an hurricane of activities, preparation, party primaries, all of those things that we need to be done with election. Why put this whole tax that is enough for 3 years? You need about 2-3 years to do this kind of revalidation, and you want to do it alongside other activities. I think it's in a bad light. Complicated on that too is the recent political narrative, like your recent analyst guest has shown, that you see there is one side on the ADC, there is this. It means that INEC had an intention, but the real intention, I think, is to begin to look at the voter turnout and not use the registered voter that began 2011, where there are dead people, there are Japa people, there are all manner of people on that register. But it's too close to core, and that is why it's not a good one.
Now, do you think, based on your opinion and those of others, would you say that's the reason why INEC has decided to suspend this continuous voters registration? And what does it also tell us about the overall preparedness of the 2027 elections?
I think that the suspension, because I don't want to truly say that INEC suspended revalidation. INEC suspended the preparation, the announcement, and said that you can prepare internally. The meeting with REC will then mean whether they've agreed to suspend fully and push it over after 2027 election, or they may agree to go ahead. But I think that's where Nigeria need to arise, and that's the kind of job you are doing. Fantastic job that News Central is doing to try to provide this knowledge. And I think that in preparing for the 2027 election, revalidation should not be part of it. Revalidation itself is a whole big task. I hear INEC chairman talked about having it in a budget, that it was not his tenure or his administration that brought revalidation. Very fantastic argument. But the same way, he must understand that if he runs this pari passu with the activity of the election and everything fades, his name will go down in a mud. And I think you need to study. This is where you study. That the atmosphere is not ripe. Again, it is not ripe for this intervention. 2027 election is January, as they've already proposed. You have at least for the next 6 months after the 2027 election, maybe after you can do court cases and do revalidation. But the bad side of it is that if you begin revalidation, do not end it. You move it up to the election of 2031. It's going to be a circle. Don't just do all of this fire brigade approach, particularly INEC getting involved in fire brigade approach, is not in the best interest of the chairman itself, because everything goes down, everything rise and fall on leadership. It will rise and fall on him. If he succeeds, it will be credit to INEC. If he fails, it will be failure of the chair.
There seems to be a lot of trust deficit, especially from the electorate. And INEC going back and forth now. I think for me and a couple of Nigerians, the focus would be on the statement. First statement, it came as a shocker to the electorate, Nigerians. And it started circulating online until it seemed much more like it was leaked. until the information was substantiated with the press release from INEC. And then all of a sudden, there seems to be a retraction, like you said, although you're saying that they haven't suspended yet, they just suspended the time. If we look at all of this back and forth with few months to go, and the current political turbulence that's going on, where it seems to be like it's a one-party state movement. Yes, let's say that again and make it clear. How do you think the electorates can trust INEC? And Professor Josh Abukpito's tenure right now, how would you rate it? Has it started on a very good note?
Thank you. I hope Wike will not come after you.
I was thinking the same thing.
All right, that's an aside. On trust deficit is actually a challenge. In the first ever meeting with, CSO meeting with the INEC chair, Professor Josh, the Situation Room hosted a meeting and Professor Josh honored that invitation and asked Professor Josh a very direct question. Can we trust you? I didn't need to explain what it meant. Trust is a critical concern today. Any movement, body language, mouth language, whatever language that INEC tend to move today, people will read meaning to it. And INEC has got to study the handwriting on the wall in moving those decisions in a way. You see, a bird flying in the night, a child dies in the morning. It's a problem. The bird is responsible. Trust is a concern. And INEC chair, understanding that in his response to my question, he said everywhere he had gone that people continue to ask about trust. They was going to build trust. But today, I can vehemently say that INEC chair has maintained the culture of trust deficit in the commission. There are decisions you need not just take as a commission. You take those decisions following stakeholders' engagement. Stakeholders' engagement goes beyond political parties, goes beyond civil society or media. Stakeholders' engagement must be expanded in a way you can even commission a poll. I mean, you can engage in some kind of feedback mechanism in a way that with this work, can you do a D- plan from January of 2027 up to the moment? Where are we? Can we do that back-end strategic engagement that shows that this is not realistic? In my opinion, as a strategist, this is not realistic because you are going to overstretch the personnel in INEC. You are going to require so much resources. Of course, we're already talking about resources. Like you said, a one-party system, a one-party state, people are already arguing. So why, if you are engaging in a one-party state, why do we need to spend this huge amount of resource? Meanwhile, the country, Nigeria, is still borrowing, even though it's getting so much money from the oil windfall or from the crude oil windfall, and we are still borrowing in the midst of it. We want to spend these huge resources. It's like we're not borrowing to conduct elections. So why do we need to spend it? INEC should just come out and tell us, we don't want to engage in election. 2027, let this party take it. 2031, let this party take it. 4 years after, then let's allocate the victory to parties. Then we go home and sleep. And then it may be better for us. Because at the end of the day, the real challenge today is that the 2027 election will be conducted under a very weird trust concern. And I think that the INEC chairman has not, I don't want to say not begun well, it actually started well by trying to learn the rope, but I think, like Chidi Otikalu has said, there tends to be something underlying that we cannot see, that eyes cannot see, the ordinary eyes cannot see, that only Josh Amobetun don't know the things that they face. You see, when he was going to assume his responsibility, and Mary Obamuche, senior lawyer, the INEC chair who stand the gap before he assumed power, said he's coming in at a divine time. But that divinity, Josh Amobetun, I think, has undermined that divinity. And I think he needs to go back to his table. Hopefully the table is still there. And look at the drawings on that table. Whether the plan is still concurrent with what his own mind, his inner mind tells him. Otherwise, after election in 2027, after the regime of President Tinubu, there will be Nigeria, and there will be the judiciary, there will be Josh Amobetun, there will be other people And that's when Nigerians truly will know who is who.
Now, just before we let you go, Mr. Igbe, I mean, many Nigerians watching this will be shaking their heads, and it would also confirm a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy that they had, that, you know, these elections are an exercise in futility, and a sense of hopelessness that, you know, my vote can't change anything. But we need to, as the media, inform the people that, look, your votes are very powerful, and you can actually change the destiny of the nation by participating in this exercise. You've been in the advocacy for electoral reforms and elections and voting and deepening our democratic culture in Nigeria. And now I want you to speak to Nigerians who feel a sense of hopelessness or disillusionment with the political class and would rather watch English Premier League or play football on the streets on elections day. I want you to address them and just speak to them on the importance of voting, even in the midst of all of this political shenanigans happening.
I mean, again, thanks, New Central. This is what we all need to do. But when institutions begin to show you a pattern that doesn't correlate with the destination we are all headed, it becomes a challenge. So first of all, we have to deal with the institution and then give the people hope. But that notwithstanding, I've said again and again, Nigerians, the ballot, it's your only power that makes you determine that you are truly a Nigerian. And what do I mean? On the day of election in January, we all must go to the poll, whether there is one party there. In fact, a protest vote is a vote. Go and protest. But however, we must make sure that there is truly opposition, not just having candidates on the ballot, because what I hear people talk about, that Nigeria is a multi-party system. We know all those. But at the end of the day, it comes down to two-horse race, maximum, like a 2023 election, a three-horse race. But we are expecting that Nigeria, come 2027, it is likely a two-horse race. And Nigerians must be prepared. Go and dust your PVC. It's still the only instrument, the only valid instrument to determine the course of action. But I also want to state, because again, we have complained about vote buying. Nigerians, how long shall we continue in this sin that the grace of God may be abound? How long shall we continue to accept 5,000, 10,000, or how much it is to continue to usurp our own powers? At the end of the day, look at folks in 2026 FCT election. Somebody's already complaining. They're already complaining. Those who took 2,000, 5,000 and voted, they're already complaining. Why complain when you have already voted? The moment you vote, whether you accept money to vote or otherwise, you must not complain again. But again, let me speak to the middle class, even though people argue that there's no middle class in Nigeria. The middle class and the rich, they are the real bane of Nigeria's development, of Nigeria's democratic architecture. Middle class and the rich, they don't vote anymore because they provide for themselves government. They are government for themselves. They provide their own security. They provide their own welfare. They provide everything they need, because the whole duty of government is the welfare and security of the citizens. If citizens are able to provide security, so you see people, they go along with security personnel. They have their own personal guard. They have dogs in their home. They have security cameras. They have electricity. They have a solar system like the villa. They provide everything from themselves, so they no longer see government as the one who provide that welfare and security. I think that this time, the rich, I am saying, are also crying. The rich also cry. The rich at this time must come out from their shell and dust their PVC. Go collect it now. Middle class, the time is now to collect your PVC. Go ahead and vote. Do the same thing you did in Asokoro in 2023, when you came out en masse. I mean, talking to Asokoro in Abuja, where you have the beehive, the way to do in society as it were in Abuja. Asokoro is an Abro area. They came out en masse in their polling unit, used their own vehicle to pull light at the polling unit. When election went up to midnight of that day, do it again in 2027. Get your phone charged, get your battery charged, Get your PVC charge. Let's go to the poll. And I think we can truly decide who runs the affairs of this country.
And that really is a great way to close this conversation. Thank you very much, Mr. Austin Igwe, for joining us and speaking to not just enlighten, but also encourage Nigerians to not give in to the despair that they might be feeling regarding elections. Because at the end of the day, the power really is in the hands of the people. The office of the citizen is the highest office in the land. Thank you for your time with us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to break shortly, and when we return from the break, we have our newspapers. We'll be reviewing the papers and letting you know what the big stories on the front pages are saying. And we'll also be opening the phone lines for you to call in to share your thoughts and let us know if you agree, disagree, or you just want to drop a comment. We'll be right back.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central, and it's time for us to take a look at what the newspapers are saying. And joining us to do this is Mr. Habib Arana, veteran journalist and astute political analyst. One welcome to you, and thank you very much for joining us on this beautiful Easter Monday.
I thought you were going to introduce him with an in-house joke and say, a mega journalist.
A mega journalist.
A mega journalist.
If you know, you know.
If you know. If you don't know, go on the social media page.
Okay, let's start off with the Punch. Oh, no, let's start off with Al Jazeera, Nigeria. The headline there says, State of the Nation, Nigeria will rise again. And can we get a big amen?
Amen.
Yes, says the Christian Association of Nigeria. It says, Easter tells us this is not the end. And Governor Babagana Zulum congratulates Christians, reaffirms commitment to peace. And still on the front page of the Al Jazeera newspaper, parties plot early moves 2027. 73 billion naira customs complex will generate revenue, will strengthen revenue generation, trade facilitation, and enforcement operations. And Igbinedion Varsity wins Huawei ICT contest, qualifies for global final. And sad news here, ex-INEC chairman Jega loses wife. 11 killed, homes destroyed in fresh Nasarawa communal clash. And BPP DG receives Private Sector Reformer Award in London. Nigeria will overcome challenges as Christ overcame death, says Lagos Speaker Mudashiru Obasa. And at Easter, Atiku felicitates with Christians. Nothing much there.
But there's something much. That big story is actually a very important story. That's front page, big story on Al Jazeera. State of the Nation, Nigeria will rise again, the Christian Association of Nigeria. Now, hope is something that Christians hold on to. It is the one thing that we have. Our hope is typically in Christ, you know, and they are expressing hope. Politically, it will be said that hope is not a strategy, politically. So what will need to happen for Nigeria to rise again? And what are like the immediate short-term results we need to see? And do the majority of Nigerians believe this? Because there are Christians now who have started to advocate that they should be allowed to defend themselves and carry arms. Because how are you in a place where you go to worship and you do not know if you're going to be able to make it back to your house?
See, that's a very fine question, and I like the way you explain it, you know, because this Easter period is a season where the symbol of Christianity, Jesus Christ, died and rose again. You know, if you are a student of religious study, there was Joseph Arimathea that saw the way Christ was buried, and before the guy came back, Christ was no more in the tomb. He rose again, and that's what Christendom has been saying gladly and happily, that Christ rose again. And it was a season where we see politicians who we know are deceiving themselves, and religious leaders who are genuinely saying that Nigeria will still come back to be what we know it to be. You know, so I said I like the way you raise it, and I think it's a reminder to all of us that we're still a country, we still be a great country in the future. So all these messages you are seeing is part of it. Many of them are political, but coming from Khan, CN, I think is more is worth it.
Mr. President also gave Easter message wishing Nigerians well, talking about the season. And, you know, it's one thing to, I mean, can is allowed to hope, but those who are foisted with executive power and have a responsibility to protect Nigerians need to do beyond hope and rhetorics. They need action. So what decisive actions? Because on the same front page of the Al Jazeera News, 11 killed, homes destroyed in fresh Nasarawa communal clash. And it was not just Nasarawa. There are pockets of violence in different parts of the country, and many Nigerians are losing their lives. We are the 6th most terrorized nation in the world, according to Global Terrorism Index, and that's not a good look. And all this is happening in the midst of heavy politicking ahead of 2027. So what does the government need to do to stop this bleeding immediately? Because the loss of one life is one too many.
If we just oppose the Easter messages of those in power and those outside power, it's two different things. You know, and the Easter messages of leaders and reminding the government that they should tackle insecurity. They're not mutually exclusive. They're basically the same thing. That's what CN is saying, and that is what Atiku Abubakar is saying. Why wishing Christians happy Easter? They also drop it that the government of the day should try and tackle insecurity, kidnapping, banditry, terrorism. So that's what we are saying, and I think something has been done about it. But my worry is that why is it that it's only weekends and these killings take place?
No, they take place every
No. Mostly,
not just
you find it on Monday from pages. I mean, journalists know what I'm talking about. So something is fishy somewhere. What is the connection? In Nasarawa, in Benue, in Borno, Kaduna. In Kaduna. What is the connection between these things happening on weekends? They will report it on Monday. Just like other people that are carrying drugs.
On Sundays.
On Sundays.
Yeah.
Sunday. We should be more observant. We should reason more than casual people on the streets. All this thing is happening. You know.
That's the deep.
Okay, let's move to Punch. Punch is very busy. Very busy. Too many stories to look at.
As usual.
The big story on the front page of the Punch, 2027 elections. Political storm brews over PVC revalidation. Now, the opposition parties want INEC to cancel the planned PVC revalidation. ADC, PDP obedience flag disenfranchisement, say rural voters at risk. INEC asks Rex to suspend preparation amid backlash. The question is, did they think it through? Did they think about the impact of this? We always say here that this administration has been accused of not often carrying out impact assessment, rolling out policies, and then when there's backlash, they will now come back.
But INEC has asked Rex to suspend preparation. So
yeah.
Why the hula baloo?
See, this was the hula baloo pre-INEC asking. Was the hula baloo that led to INEC asking them to suspend, right? But if you look at the bottom of that paper again, bottom right, towards the right of that picture, obedience mobilized for Occupy INEC protest. So you see, INEC is in the eye of the storm in this season. Talks intensify as Bauchi governor delays ADC defection. We were hoping that last week, Thursday, would be the day the official announcement would be made. But something happened behind the scene. We don't know what happened. We're still waiting. Tinubu okays 3.3 trillion naira power debt bailout. Lagos pastor, wife, nabbed with illicit drugs. Wow.
This is very
sad.
They shouldn't use pastor. Alleged pastor.
Alleged pastor.
It's not the behavior of a pastor.
Oyo 2027, Makinde moves to name successor. Interesting in our Nigerian economy.
I want us to start from that. No, there are big, I mean, like Olive said.
Too many big stories. Okay,
we'll touch on all of them. Makinde moves to name successor.
Yeah.
How much political clout does he have? Do outgoing governors in their second term have? We have a situation in, was it Taraba State, if I'm not mistaken, that the outgoing governor, a few of them could not even win senatorial seats while they were outgoing. So do you think Makinde possesses the political structure, the charm, the charisma to name a successor? And isn't this undemocratic? Is it not part of the godfatherism that we've been saying is the bane of our political class in Nigeria?
First of all, for a governor to support his successor is not undemocratic. It is the process that defines whether it was anti-democracy or not. If the,
he can name.
If the governor is putting a structure at the disposal of his preferred candidate, that is not undemocratic.
Was that not what happened in Rivers State with Wike and Fubara?
No, Wike is different from.
No.
Why is it different?
It's not different.
No, what I'm saying is that Wike succeeded in Rivers. Makinde, I'm saying it here openly, will not succeed in Oyo. I was born and bred in Oyo State, in Ibadan.
Why?
Why do you say?
Why? Because no governor has succeeded in planting a successor in office. 1. 2.
In Oyo State, yes.
In Oyo State. 2 is the fact that Oyo electorate, they are the most vibrant and conscious. And I'm saying it on air. Makinde cannot, in fact, Makinde will not be consequential in this election.
But going by his record...
Wait, let me answer your question now. The Oluban of Ibadan is more powerful, more influential today in Ibadan, in Oyo State, to influence the next governor.
Why do you say so?
Why I say so? Because Oluban understands the politics of Oyo State. Laroja left PDP to Accord Party. Remember, he left Accord Party.
Oh, yes.
He left PDP
as
to Accord Party,
yeah.
and Accord Party became very prominent and very influential and very popular. You see, and now that is Olubadan. Look at the history of Oyo State, successful Oyo State governors that have failed to do that. And the last person that tried it, Ajimobi failed. To the extent that Ajimobi lost his senatorial seat. He lost the contest, popular contest.
So what's his Makinde's successor?
And don't also forget that Makinde's re-election was supported by President Tinubu. He had Tinubu for his own election. Yeah. So when the time was, that was
part of the G5.
His political advisor told me that. Not I'm already.
No, and then we can see.
So it's difficult for Makinde to install his successor in Oyo State. He may not even, if he's going for Senate, he may not even win the Senate seat.
But based on his track record and performance, doesn't it matter?
No. Oyo State has been lucky to have good governors. I was passing from Osun to Lagos yesterday. Look at Oyo State roads. Well laid, everything, from Akala, Tajumobi to Makinde, they've tried. They've tried. That's for infrastructure. But that is not enough for your people. Your people, they don't suffer food gladly.
So what of the Minister of Power? If he had resigned, would he have had a chance?
No, he has not resigned.
If he decides to.
Condition.
That's why I've told you that those people cannot, in your state, Adelabu cannot, don't even have any, what the structure.
If Adelabu shows up.
The person that will win that state is who Olubadan supports. And for now, Olubadan is supporting Sarafadin, who was SSG when he was governor of the state. So those all the politics is easily predictable because the electorate.
I think the only way
they are very, very conscious.
The only way the
there's a story in the Punch list story. I think it's very important.
Okay, we'll come to that. So,
because
we'll come to that. I wanted us to take
guests.
Yeah,
the
so
Minister
far it's only the Olubadan's influence that would, from your perspective, that will determine who the successor.
No, I'm saying that it's one of the people that will decide.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
All right, this story is a big story. I wanted to save it for last. Let's talk very quickly.
Anyway, I need to get my comments in before you move on.
Yeah, quickly.
The only way the power minister can succeed is if he pays for those 1,000 trumpets that the prophet asked him to pay for in that WhatsApp chat. Maybe then he can become the governor.
Okay. I want us to talk about something that we've seen for the second time in the past few months. 2027, Atiku hires U.S. lobbying firm for $1.2 million, says report. Now, this is not the first time that we're hearing this kind of story. We saw these U.S. firms are really balling. First of all, it was the APC that reportedly hired the U.S. firm for PR.
David, that's right.
I'm hoping that our management is watching. You need to hire U.S. firm now to ensure that you publicize Breakfast Central.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what's ready.
As a communications expert, I think I should start putting myself out there more.
As a lobbyist.
So that it's very important.
I can. This is money.
Tap from the dollars.
It's a windfall.
This is windfall.
From the dollars. You see, coming from Punch.
Yeah.
If it were other paper, I would doubt it.
Other people.
Sarah reporters also too.
I
get your point. I get your point.
Punch cannot put that kind of a story in the front page.
Yeah.
It's not verified. So it's been verified. And
they've responded, by the way. Let me also mention the alleged firm has also responded.
Positively.
they called the Sahara story an entertaining story, that people should just go and read for entertainment, that they are verified. They kind of like put themselves there. That
so I think
according to reports, it said that the lobbying firm, according to the document filed with the U.S. Department of Justice, one of the contract's objectives entails that the firm will counterbalance the Nigerian government's lobbying narratives in the U.S. The lobbying firm is also expected to advance understanding within U.S. policy institution of Atiku's leadership posture and policy vision. Atiku as a leader for 2027, what are the prospects for that? Because all of this is not for nothing. It's not, if this is confirmed, it's not spending all that money because he just wants Nigerians to have a positive impression of him.
And again, why do you, are they our colonial masters? Why are you not impressing the Nigerian people?
No.
The Nigerian people are the electorates. They're the ones that would decide.
No, don't bring that.
An independent country. No, it's a very valid argument.
No.
The presidency is lobbying, even opposition are lobbying to the United States. Who are the United States?
Well, don't forget, let me bring the crux of this story.
Yes.
The crux is that the ADC's internal wrangle has led the NAFIA group to write to the U.S. Embassy. They've also said they are writing to the United States and so on to highlight the skirmishes or the issues that
they don't have their own domestic issues.
No, so they are writing to
them. They are dealing with.
Hence why the ADC says, hence why they had to get someone over there to also handle that international correspondence while they focus on this.
I understand.
So that might also be a balance if you look at it. But
I like the way Olive, the angle she's looking at is the fact that will be spending so much money without being ambitious. Is it possible for him to spend this kind of money and see pave way for Obi?
Or
Kwakwaso? It will be difficult.
But there are rumors over the weekend as well. Breaking news.
Even 10 days ago that he has stepped down.
Daily Trust. That, he's willing to.
I think, and the thing is, there's only bad in hiring foreign firm to polish your image. Bros, today, the capital of the free world is America. What did this say?
There's nothing free about it.
There's no issue of colonialism. No, that is not the issue. We must play the game according to the rules.
It's part of the game.
Or they'll be left out. And I have to say, the train will leave you at the station. So,
and you join Okada.
But I also believe that the best way to animate voters, to make them to be enthusiastic about the process, right, is to put Obi on the ticket, and Kwakwaso on the ticket. And Atiku we remind us again that here we go again. It will be difficult for them to put a challenge.
And they all part of the same political
class. Dominance of FCT,
even the Mr. Patel, Atiku, and all of them.
Let's take this call. Let's take this call. Yeah. Hello, good morning. Thanks for joining us. What's your name and where are you calling from? Uche. All right.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning,
Uche.
Yeah. Khan is saying Nigeria will rise again. And every one of us has said amen. But when we stop doing the same thing. When you are doing the same thing, expecting a different result, it will not work. There is a saying that says, a fool of 40 is a fool forever. Nigeria is more than 40 years. The way we are going, the kind of leadership we are getting, that is the problem of Nigeria. Some people will say Nigeria is not at war. Nigeria is at war because of our leaders. We don't have leaders that are putting on their thinking cap. Let them put on their thinking cap. Aso Rock have gone on solar. Federal government of Nigeria, led by what is his name, Asiwaju. I have read that they have, given
$3.3 trillion legacy debt payment.
That is a problem. You are giving them the kind of money they want. At the same time, you have gone on solar, not expecting life from them. Which kind of a country? Who do us? That is what we be asking them. Who do us? Until we change leadership. Leadership is a problem. Leadership is a problem of Nigeria. They are now, spending money, inviting America. The ADC have done their own through Atiku. Federal government have done their own through Atiku. Whereas we have people in this country. We have industry. Why can't they give you people that money? Image makers, you people are journalists. Why can't they give Nigerian journalists that kind of money to promote what? Local institutions. God bless you people.
Thank you for
very
calling.
much.
Let's look at the
Uche
major
is
story.
always waxing
Uche
philosophically.
is always on point. Political storm brews over PVC revalidation. Just yesterday, a press release was dropped. The INEC boss stopping the revalidation process. Opposition parties want INEC to cancel planned PVC revalidation. That's what we have on the front page. INEC asked Rex to suspend preparations amid backlash. We just had a guest on this topic, and he said when he met with the prof, he said the time is too short. He also highlighted the fact, he said, can we trust you? And the prof said yes. And then he also highlighted the shortness of the time.
Amidst
all these other preparations. I mean, what's your take on this story? It's one of the biggest on the front page.
You see, one of my friend is the spokesperson of the INEC chairman. I will give you guys his number.
Please do.
And call him. You see, I will listen to your guest, the last person that came. A major feature of democracy is elections. Credible elections. When the convention, the delegates met in Philadelphia, they wrote the U.S. Constitution. The oldest person at the convention, Benjamin Franklin, was going out to the convenience. And the lady asked him, what are you giving us? He replied, the woman, a republic. Hope you can keep it. That's more than 50 years ago. Nigeria, we have a democracy without features of democracy. We have civilian administration.
Instead of military.
So to cast your vote should be the easiest thing to do. That's the weapon. I don't joke with my voter's card. I kept it in a place in my wardrobe. I check it almost every week. Yes, no, I'm serious.
Is that balance?
And my children are above 18. I forced them to go and get their cards, even though they are pro people. But me, I'm APC, and I believe in the future of this country. I'm telling you, and I believe
the APC can deliver that.
I believe Nigeria will reinvent itself. I believe Nigeria can reinvent itself. I'm telling you.
Okay.
So, and the only way to do it for all of us to get our PVC.
Okay, let's hear from Emeka.
At the right time.
Emeka is calling. Let's hear what Emeka has to say. Good morning, Emeka.
Good morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
Yes. I've been listening to you guys. I really appreciate what you guys have been doing. But the real problem here about this forthcoming general election remains the umpire, which is INEC. For crying out loud, Nigeria, we keep recycling, doing things the same way, and we expect a different result. Just look at the charade at Abuja. There's no election. And to make matter worse, this is being done by a professor and graduates, NYSC graduates. You can see what they were posting on IREBs, all cancellations and the likes. So this is a rehearsal of what 2027 is. And for some of us who have been already disenfranchised, even before the election, have registered twice now with the same INEC in 2015 and just the last recent election. And twice I've been denied my PVC. There are people like us, millions of us in this shoe. Nobody is talking about it. Somebody like me now, I've resigned that I can't vote because I don't have PVC. Not that I didn't register, but INEC chose not to give it to me, and so many of us like that. And the media, so sorry to say, this is the first time you guys even allow us to call into a talk show. It's been long. No news station does that again in Nigeria. Because why? I don't know. Probably they are scared or they don't want the NBC to come at them. Probably because of the the appeal court judgment. Now you guys are now giving the floor to us to say actually what is happening. It's a pity. Nigeria is what it is today. People have lost interest. If I have the interest to vote and INEC is doing this to me and so many others, so what else are we looking for? There is nothing to say. It's just a pity that Nigeria is where it is today, and it's quite unfortunate. May God help. I don't like using that word, may God help us, because God is tired of Nigeria. We are the only ones to help us.
Emeka, thank you very much. Thank you for your
Hear from the voice.
I understand Emeka's frustration.
Tired.
You know, I understand his frustration. You wanted to say something?
No, I was thinking that you guys should address his concern.
About?
Yeah, I'm not sure he's been very...
Because we have always opened the phone.
He's been very current in watching News Central.
Yeah, we've always opened the phone.
The News Central has provided a very stable platform for people to hear their views. All this while, many issues affecting the country.
And not just with the phone calls, even with our town halls.
Many things.
We create an avenue where stakeholders, citizens can come together and talk about issues bothering them. But we understand your frustration.
But at the same time, I think INEC, I hope INEC officials are watching this program. Because what he has just said is despondency cannot be overemphasized. The man is not happy at all. And there are many like him in the country who are very, very difficult to get their voters card. I think INEC should address it. People should not lose hope in elections. That is dangerous. You know, INEC should address it and let them know that yes, there are better ways and easier ways, you know, to get a voter's card.
Okay, I do not know if we have enough time. We have less than 3 minutes to the end of the show. Let's see if we can quickly run through the front page of Nigerian Tribune. Power sector debt. Tinubu approves 3.3 trillion naira to tackle electricity crisis. Army rescues 31 abducted worshippers in Kaduna. Bandits kill 7 suspected armed herders. Kill 9 in Benue. Really sad. NDLA uncovers cocaine in palm kernel oil cans. Arrests kingpin in Lagos hideout.
The health story is very important.
Irregular bedtimes.
Especially for broadcasters of breakfast shows that wake up at very early.
What does this say? What is it?
Irregular bedtimes could harm heart, brain, doctors want. Let's take our final call because we're almost out of time. Mohammed, good morning. Thank you very much for calling.
Good morning, ma'am. My name is Anaja Mohammed Davagi. I'm calling from Port Harcourt.
Thank you very much for calling.
Good to hear your voice.
I want to thank News Central and the crew for giving us opportunity every day to air our views as regard to happenings in this country. I think we're in a very serious, chaotic situation in this country. The only functional and achievable economic sector in Nigeria is the oil sector. And the federal government are comfortable with the trillions that come in without any hindrance to them. And they have abandoned other areas of the economy because their aim is not 2026, but their aim is 2027. But even some of us that may not be able to see 2027. But I think I would want to ask the president to see beyond politics and allow the mechanism of governance to operate independently. He allowed people to use the functions of governance to manipulate processes, and people now see outcomes of things in advance. So I think if you go to the southeast here, I was coming from Akwa Ibom to River State. I drove all the way from RCC to almost 10 kilometers. I saw only 3 vehicles coming from beyond and behind me. What does that tell you? People are not able to fund their transportation. People can no longer do business. People can no longer travel again. So I think I'll ask the president of this country before the election, let us look at the security as a key priority. Thank you very much and God bless.
Thank you very much for
talk about the hardship.
It's really sad. You know, I think if you can, in 30 seconds, you know, just speak to Nigerians. If you could say something.
In how many seconds, please?
Maybe 30 seconds. We're almost out of time.
Or a minute. Just go on.
30. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was thinking that we talk about this power.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can.
Now that the president has
3.3 trillion.
paid
But he said this is not the first time.
And now that they have paid the debt, the ball is now the court of the Genco and Discos to give us light, give us power. Please. Without power, we cannot do jack. And I'm not against Asurok having option B. No, they're not debating it. Anybody can have option B.
You know,
but it should provide power for Nigerians.
The money was owed to them,
now.
so you cannot owe me money and decide that after you've paid me, you decide what I'll use the money for.
No, it doesn't work like that. You see, these guys are under the control of government. Government is still control them. So now that they have paid the money, they've been shouting that they don't have, now they have paid them. How do we have enough gas to power our electricity so we can have light in our houses?
All right.
So that we do our business.
Mr. Aruna, thank you for joining us this Monday morning, this Easter Monday. To our callers who have called in, we always love to hear from you. We do this every day. We open the phone lines every day and give you an opportunity to share your thoughts. So thank you to our callers, virtual guests, virtual audience. as well as guests who joined us in studio. We'll be back again same time tomorrow, but from us here, it's Happy Easter Monday and see you tomorrow.
And special Happy Easter to Mr. Habib Aruna. Have a mega Easter celebration today.
And you too.
Thanks for watching, guys.
That's an in-house joke.